Let's study the formation of annual rings now. So in this video I am going to explain about the formation of annual rings, and along with that I am going to explain about the formation of two types of wood, that is early wood and late wood. Early wood is also called as spring wood and late wood is also called as autumn wood. Okay, let's start with it. So actually wood is formed by what? Wood is formed by secondary xylem. So secondary xylem constitutes wood. So secondary xylem constitutes wood. Okay, let's start with formation of annual rings. Right. So actually what happens in the tropical regions, two types of regions are there, tropical regions and temperate regions, right? So in the tropical regions, the conditions are favorable for the growth of plants throughout the year. So throughout the year, the conditions are favorable for the growth of plants. Throughout the year, the conditions are favorable for the growth of plants. So when the conditions are favorable for the growth of plants, the activity of vascular cambium will be similar throughout the year. So activity of vascular cambium is similar. Vascular cambium, I am writing it as VC, is similar throughout the year, right? So when it is similar throughout the year, this vascular cambium is active throughout the year and it continuously will be forming secondary phloem and secondary xylem, that is secondary permanent tissues, right? So it is continuously involved in the formation of secondary phloem and secondary xylem. Continuously forms secondary phloem and secondary xylem. Xylem and secondary phloem, right? So this is about tropical regions. Next, coming to other type of region, that is temperate regions. So in case of temperate regions, there are two types of seasons. They are unfavorable season and favorable season, right? So they are favorable season and unfavorable season. Unfavorable season. Okay, what is this favorable season? Favorable season is the season which is favorable for the growth of plants. So which season is generally favorable for the growth of plants? That is spring season and early summer. So favorable season is nothing but spring or early summer. Early summer season is favorable for the growth of plants, right? Next, unfavorable season is the season during which is unfavorable for the growth of plants. So it is autumn season or autumn season or winter, which is also called as late growing season, right? Okay, during favorable conditions, that is favorable seasons, activity of vascular cambium is more. Okay, vascular cambium is more active and hence this vascular cambium produces more amount of secondary xylem towards inner side. So the amount of secondary xylem which is produced towards inner side will be more and more, right? So as this season is favorable for the growth of plants, plant requires more and more amount of water and minerals. So to fulfill this more and more amount of water, to fulfill this requirement, that is more amount of water and minerals required by the plant, the trachary elements present in xylem. What are the trachary elements? They are vessels and tracheids. So the trachary elements, that is vessels and tracheids, are longer in size. These vessels and tracheids are longer in size and they are with broader lumen, and their lumen is also broader and hence they can transport more amount of water through this broader lumen, right? Okay, and the cell walls of these trachary elements, that is vessels and tracheids, is thin. Thin means relatively less thicker, less thickened or less thicker, right? And hence this wood which is formed during favorable season, in case of temperate regions, appear light in color. So it is light colored wood. As this wood is formed during spring season, this wood is also called as spring wood. This is also called as spring wood or early wood. Spring wood or early wood. Right? Early wood. Right. Now let's study the conditions, unfavorable conditions. What happens during unfavorable conditions? Okay, during unfavorable conditions, unfavorable season, vascular cambium present in these plants is less active and hence the amount of secondary xylem which is produced towards inner side is less, right? So as the conditions are unfavorable for the growth of plants, the amount of water and minerals required by the plants will be less and hence these tracheids and vessels are smaller in size and they are smaller in size. Vessels and tracheids, same, vessels and tracheids are smaller in size and they are with narrow lumen, right? Narrow lumen, as it doesn't require more amount of water, as the plant doesn't require more amount of water during unfavorable season, right? And the cell walls of these tracheids and vessels which are formed during this season, unfavorable season, are thick and hence the wood which is formed during this season appears dark in color, appears darker. Okay, and this is called dark wood. This is light wood, this is dark wood, right? And the wood which is formed during this unfavorable season is also called as autumn wood or late wood. Autumn wood or late wood. So this is about two types of wood. Now let's see what are annual rings. Okay, in a year, what is happening? Two seasons are there, that is unfavorable season and favorable season. So under favorable season, what type of wood is formed? Light colored wood is formed, which is broad band. So broad band of wood is formed, broad band of wood, which is lighter in color, right? Broad band of wood, which is lighter in color. Light colored wood is formed, right? And during unfavorable seasons, what is happening during unfavorable seasons? Narrow band is formed, which is with narrow lumen. So narrow band of secondary xylem is formed, which is representing the narrow band of wood. So narrow band is formed, right? And this narrow band is dark in color. So what is happening? A ring of light colored wood and a ring of dark colored wood is formed, or a ring of broad band of wood and a ring of narrow band of wood is formed in the same year. So these two rings together represents one annual ring. These two rings together represents one annual ring, right? So by counting the number of annual rings present in the trunk of tree after its secondary growth, the age of trees can be estimated. So what can we say? Number of annual rings. I am writing it as AR. Number of annual rings is equals to the age of plant. So the science which deals with the study of age of plants by counting the number of annual rings is called as dendrochronology, right? So the study of science that deals with the estimation or finding the age of plants by counting the number of annual rings is called as dendrochronology. Dendrochronology. Right? So this is all about two types of wood, that is early or spring wood and then autumn or late wood. And this is about annual rings, how these annual rings are formed. So in tropical region there is no formation of annual rings in the wood, and in temperate regions, the plants which are growing in temperate regions form two types of rings in 1 year. These two types of rings which are formed in 1 year together represents one annual ring. So one annual ring is equals to 1 year. right? 1 year of the tree, 1 year age of the tree. Okay, now I'll be starting with two other different types of wood, that is heartwood and sapwood.